Welcome to the UCS Service Profile Configuration skill. Now, this skill is going to be a little bit different than some of the other UCS skills that we've made in that it's going to be focused on a lab environment. Piece by piece, we're going to create a service profile template, use that to create a service profile, map that service profile to actual hardware, a real UCS blade, and then power up the blade and install a hypervisor. In our case, we're going to install VMware. So by taking a look at that, we're going to see end-to-end how we configure service profile. And the first step in all of that, though, and what we're going to focus on in this nugget, is to actually map out what we want this service profile template to look like. That way, once we've done our due diligence and we've done our planning, we can go and create the service profile. Because this skill is very configuration focused, there's a great nugget I want you to go watch just in case you haven't seen it. And it's about the UCS Platform Emulator. Now, the UCS Platform Emulator is a tool that Cisco gives us to download from their website. It's free of charge. And we can run it on the VMware tools that we can download also for free of charge from VMware. And so it's a great platform for us to practice on in case we don't have access to a full UCS system. Now, the nugget I want you to watch is within the network configuration skill for UCS. It's the first nugget in that skill. And so watching that briefly, downloading the tools, will give you access to UCS. Now let's start planning our service profile. One of the first things we need to decide is where is this service profile going to live? So in our environment, we're going to have a single chassis, and that chassis has 8 slots. And we already have servers in slots 1, 2, and 3. But this new service profile we create, we're going to apply that to blade 4. That would be slot 1/4, which is chassis 1, and then blade number 4. Now keep in mind we're starting with a service profile template. And templates can't be applied to physical server slots because it's not actually a service profile, it's just a template. What we can do is apply a template to a server pool, because that server pool will then be used to select the server. So we're going to create a server pool that includes really just one server at this point, server 1/4. But we can apply future servers to this pool as well, which allows us to use the same service profile template to create multiple service profiles that will then be assigned to the servers that are inside the pool. So now we know the hardware target for our service profile, slot 1/4, but we're going to do about boot. Well, we have a couple of different options. This server is actually equipped with local SD cards. And so there's actually 2 of these, if I can squeeze that in there. So we have 2 SD cards installed into the server, no hard drives, by the way, inside of this server. And so we have to boot off of the SD cards if we want a local boot. So first of all, we're going to locally boot off of the SD cards. Now, once we've created our service profile in a future nugget within the skill, we're then going to take that server, ignore the SD cards inside, and we're going to boot across the network to a storage array. And that storage array would, in this case, in our environment, be a Tegile array. So this is a storage array that's on the network, and we're going to use iSCSI communication in order to do a network boot. So that would be the second boot option. We're going to start with an SD card boot, install ESXi that way, and then change the service profile to boot off of the storage array via iSCSI. Lastly, there were 3 policies that we addressed in the service profile skill for UCS, one of which was the disk policy. Now in our case, because we don't have any disks, but we do have SD, right? We have an SD card that we have to worry about. We need to say, we're going to say no disks for that policy, and we want to enable the SD card slot. So that's going to be our local disk policy. The next policy we need is the maintenance policy. Now the maintenance policy says that when we make a disruptive change to the service profile, what do we want UCS to do? And we can't have it say, are you sure you want to reload? And we say yes, and it just reloads. That would be immediate. But we don't want immediate. We want user acknowledgement, which gives us kind of a second chance to say, okay, now that I've accepted the changes, I'm going to then reload the server on my own at a future time. Lastly, the scrub policy. The scrub policy defines what UCS does when the service profile leaves the hardware and goes to a different server. So in our case, because we have those SD cards, we're going to want to wipe these and prepare for another service profile to come in. It's only a boot run. We're not storing actual data here, so we're not in any danger of wiping out any critical data. So we want to go ahead and say, yes, we're going to scrub the SD cards when the service profile leaves the hardware. So that covers our initial planning for the service profile. We know where we're going to boot the server. We know how we're going to install the hypervisor, right? It's either to local SD cards or later on we'll explore an iSCSI boot. And then we also have some other policies that will define how UCS behaves in certain scenarios around the service profile. And next, we definitely want to take a look at how do we plan out the networking side of this. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.